Hey guys, can you all see me and hear me? Hi Kishore, Gix, Veruke, Pradeep, Pretzel, Jon Snow, Mohit, Sanjana. Am I visible and audible? Hi Vinay. Hi. So this is our, oh shit, I forgot. What have I uploaded? Just give me a second, guys. I think I've uploaded. No, all right, it's fine. I have just forgotten to change the title of this to Recipe 3. All right. So please forgive me for that. It is one of the side effects of taking so many classes for you guys. Hi Arnab, Shrigiri, Shivani, welcome back to class. So this is our part 3 of Pulmo, where we'll be focusing on pleural diseases. All right, most importantly, pleural effusion and pneumothorax, but we won't just restrict ourselves to that. We'll look at all of the causes, and in detail we'll try and see a lot of diseases. Okay, so tomorrow, guys, we have 3 classes. 5 p.m., 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. These are all going to be about integrated approach to tumors. Okay, so one of you asked for renal tumors, so we'll be looking at all the renal tumors, lung tumors, and then liver lesions. Okay, so we'll try and integrate radio, patho, and the clinical findings of all of these tumors like we did for brain tumors. I think most of you were there for that class. So we will do that. Hi, Shivani. And brain we've already done. No, we've done brain in this neuro part 1 and 2. We have done that. So you can see those classes. So most of your tumors basically yahi puchte exam mein, so all of these will get covered. All right, plus classes. You are a plus member. Veruke, are you somebody else up till now, or was your name something else? Have you changed your name? I have not seen you in my classes. So plus class, we have 2 classes on Monday. Okay, we have 2 classes on Monday from 4 to 6 and 7 to 9. Okay, where we will be completing GI and we'll be looking at renal pathologies. Okay, okay, you are famous. All right, you must be. Are you Shiva Shankar? Because he is the one who keeps changing his names, basically, is what I can recall. All right, amazing. See, my guess is correct here. All right, and then on Sunday we have 2 classes, okay, which is 2 quizzes from all these things that we have covered. All right, guys, so all good to go? Are you good to begin? And all of you know about Iconic subscription. So those of you who are interested, guys, can get this combined subscription only, so that both are taken care of and you have multiple resources at your disposal. Okay, so before I begin, you guys will tell me the most sensitive investigation for pleural effusion. Most sensitive investigation for pleural effusion. Okay, very easy. So it is indeed ultrasound, correct? It is indeed ultrasound, which is the most sensitive investigation. Now tell me, what is the most sensitive X-ray for pleural effusion? Which is the most sensitive X-ray for pleural effusion? Very nice. So we will do ipsilateral, lateral decubitus, correct? No doubts with all of these X-rays, correct? Which is the least sensitive X-ray? If I ask you which is the least sensitive X-ray or for pleural effusion, what will be your answer? Least sensitive. How can I take a chest X-ray such that I will need maximum amount of fluid to diagnose pleural effusion? Very nice, Shivani. So supine. All right, very good. AP also, basically AP jab lete hain, mostly it is in supine only. All right, yes, let's do the order. We'll do the order in order of increasing sensitivity. So identify the investigation. What is this investigation? This is ultrasound. Very good. So ultrasound, what we can see is when I put the probe on the hepatorenal pouch, guys, just above the hepatorenal pouch, and we direct it superiorly, what we will see is we will see the CP angle. All right. So can you see here that this is the liver and here is the CP angle? Can you appreciate this angle, guys? This is that costophrenic angle that we keep talking about. Okay. So Akash, Ashmita, Sahir, Kaushik, those of you joining in, I've just begun. All right. I have just begun with pleural effusion. I think I should have waited for a couple of minutes for everyone to join in. Okay. So those of you joining in, Ashmita, Sahir, Jeel, we have just begun. All right. I have discussed most sensitive investigation for pleural effusion, most sensitive X-ray, and least sensitive X-ray. Okay, Rajol. Now we are going in the order. Okay, I will repeat this again. We'll go in the order of increasing sensitivity. So all of you have identified that this is the ultrasound. Ultrasound mein fluid kaisa dikhega? What will the fluid look like on ultrasound? It will appear black. Very good. So anechoic. Correct. Fluid will be anechoic. Can I say it is anechoic with what? With what posterior acoustic feature? with posterior acoustic enhancement. Shivashankar, not shadowing, shadowing with calculus. Don't make this mistake, okay? So an echoic with posterior acoustic enhancement. Now, can you all see here for me? Can you see at the CP angle? This is the entire effusion which has obliterated the CP angle. Can you all see this kala fluid here? Here, normally, our lung should have been, correct? Here, we should have had our lung, which should have appeared white and appeared a lot of shadowing. But now, instead of that, I have this black fluid. And can you all appreciate this posterior enhancement? Yahan pe kitna white hai? If you compare this area with the same depth on this side, can I say that there is definite enhancement here? Can you all appreciate this? So if we look at the same depth, there is so much enhancement, correct? So this is how our fluid appears. So first basic concept done. That is why ultrasound, anywhere I want to detect minimal fluid, our ultrasound becomes investigation of choice, correct? So guys who are joining in now, I have just begun. Okay, so our first learning point will be most sensitive investigation. How much can it detect? Let's put a number to each of the investigation. This can detect as much as 5 ml. All right, yes, 5 to 10 ml, always it's a range. So it can detect as much as 5 to 10 ml. Means anything abnormal. Less than 5 ml to normal pleural fluid hota hai, correct? 1 to 5 ml is a normal pleural fluid. So any amount of fluid which is extra here will accumulate in this angle. Alright, so यहाँ पे काला काला दिखना शुरू हो जाएगा. Alright, so remember most sensitive investigation are ultrasound. We will see this anechoic fluid and the sensitivity is as low as 5 to 10 ml. Alright, below the CP angle नहीं, CP angle में ही, in the CP angle. Alright, so if this is the liver, okay, this thing you are seeing here is the liver, okay, so ये liver है, this is the angle. So what I will see is fluid will accumulate here, okay, I will see blackness here. All right, understood? Okay. So we have done our most sensitive investigation. Now tell me, what is this investigation? What is this X-ray that I am showing you? What is this X-ray? It is a lateral decubitus. Do you agree? It is not supine, Shivashankar. See, it is a lateral decubitus. Can you see the person is lying down? So this is ipsilateral lateral decubitus. Can you appreciate this? How will your supine appear? Supine will appear just like this. It will appear like a frontal view. You can't say based on just looking at the X-ray whether it's supine or it's taken in an erect position. Your cardiomegaly will be one hint, but overall the shape will be same. Okay, whenever you are seeing such an appearance and this layering of fluid in the dependent location, this is our lateral decubitus. All right, is this clear, guys? All of you are joining in. We are just discussing the appearances. All right, this is all that you have already heard from me. You must already be knowing. Okay, so lateral decubitus. Can I say this is the most sensitive chest X-ray as we have discussed? Decubitus matlab side mein. All right, so decubitus just means lying down. But when I say lateral decubitus, it means you are lying on the side. Is that clear? Shrigiri, is that clear? Okay. So this is lateral decubitus, our most sensitive chest X-ray. And can you tell me how much fluid it can detect now? Here we had our 5 to 10 ml. How much fluid can this detect? Very nice. So this can detect anywhere above 50 ml. All right, anything above 50 ml, our lateral decubitus can detect. Just add a 0 to this. All right, just multiply it by 10. So around 50 ml fluid will layer around and be seen. Now, what is this X-ray, guys? Hi, Mansi. Welcome to class. We're discussing pleural effusion. Okay, Athena, those of you are joining in. This is the lateral chest X-ray. This is the lateral chest X-ray. Now, how will I see lateral chest X-ray? Again, we will see blunting of CP angle. Remember this phrase, very, very important. Blunting of the costophrenic angle. Correct? So here on the lateral, what two CP angles do I see, guys? What two CP angles do I see? I see the anterior and posterior CP angle. Do you agree? On a frontal view, I see right and left CP angle. On a lateral, I see anterior and posterior. It can be right lateral also, left lateral also. Normally, we take left lateral again to reduce the magnification of the heart so that we can see more X-rays. So by convention, unless mentioned otherwise, it is a left lateral. But here your side of effusion doesn't matter, correct? Because you are anyways going to see anterior and posterior. Correct? Understood that, sir? Okay. So remember, usually, unless mentioned otherwise, it's a left lateral view. All right. Okay. So lateral X-ray, we see the blunting. And remember, can you tell me the deepest CP angle? Anterior, posterior, right, left. Yes, it is the posterior CP angle. So that is why When there is low amount of fluid, do you understand? When there is low amount of fluid, it will accumulate here. Before I can see it on right and left, I will see that the lateral X-ray is more sensitive than frontal view. Do you all agree? Lateral is more sensitive than frontal. So most sensitive ho gaya ye. This is now lateral. Lateral, how much can it detect, guys? What is the number? So now again, I multiplied by 2. Roughly 100 to 125 ml this can detect. Okay. And my frontal view. Again, you all recognize this very, very well. What is this sign, guys? What is this sign? Very easy. Red pen? Okay, sure. What is this sign that I'm seeing? This upward layering of the fluid? Yes, this is the meniscus sign or your Ellis's curve, where you see that the lateral margin is higher than the medial margin. Can you all appreciate this? Laterally, it goes higher than medially. That says that it's a free effusion. It is not loculated. Do you understand? Remember this word. Loculated means it is trapped somewhere by a septum. Here, it is completely free in the CP angle. Okay, so a frontal PA view can detect in an erect position. Person is standing, can detect again, multiply by 2, somewhere around 250 to 300 ml fluid. Alright, 250 to 300 ml fluid. Okay, is this clear? Is this sequence now making sense? And the least sensitive is what? When the person is lying down. When I need almost 500 ml fluid in order to see this whiteness. Can you all see this layering bilaterally? Can you all appreciate this? So this is how it will appear on supine. Now you guys tell me the order from least sensitivity to most sensitivity. Let's make the order. Least sensitive X-ray, least sensitive se shuru karte hain. Least sensitive, very nice. First will be supine. Supine ke baad kya aayega? What after supine? A frontal PA view. Can I say a frontal PA view? All right, a frontal PA view. ठीक है. After that, what after that? We will have which view? Yes, we will have the lateral view. After that, the most sensitive X-ray if they ask us. The lateral decubitus. The lateral decubitus, correct? If they ask us the most sensitive X-ray. And then if they ask us the most sensitive investigation, yes, it will be ultrasound. All right, so is this clear to everybody? You will not have to memorize this. Have you understood the concept? Have you understood the figures? Now, any question on recognizing effusion, your theoretical one-liners should be very, very easy for all of you. Is that clear? Give me a thumbs up if no doubt with this. The very, very most basic thing. Okay, if this is clear, then we go to the medicine aspect. Okay, bulging fissure and meniscus, no. No, Shiva Shankar. What is bulging fissure sign? Basically, if this is your right hemithorax, what you will see is a fissure here. If there is a consolidation, which is very, very heavy, it will hang like this. It will cause the fissure to hang. This is the bulging fissure. Meniscus sign, completely different. What happens in meniscus sign? Yahan pe fluid is starting to fill. Let's go on a journey that there is effusion which is slowly increasing and I have a frontal view. Okay, I'm showing you one hemithorax. Can you understand what my drawing is? So what we are seeing is that there is blunting of CP angle. So in minimal amount of fluid, there will be just this blunting of CP angle. Slowly, slowly it will start increase. It will go on layering like this. It will go on layering like this. And this produces the meniscus sign where lateral is more than the medial. All right, so that is the difference. They are not the same basically. Maybe this is what is confusing you, but it is exactly the opposite, correct? This is the right upper lobe opacity, whereas this is the lower lobe opacity. Understood? Nishant, we have just begun. All right, we have just begun. I have just explained the sequence of sensitivity of pleural effusion. Okay, so those of you are just joining in, I will tell you Shrigiri, indications of lateral decubitus. Yes, so that is why, because everywhere we do ultrasound, there are very few indications where we do lateral decubitus. In a real life scenario, almost never. Okay, because our ultrasound is doing our job for us without any radiation. Correct? So almost never. This is only for your theoretical purpose that we do this. All right? Is that clear? Because everywhere else our ultrasound is doing the job for us. So those of you joining in now, remember most important thing that we have done, the sequence of sensitivity of detecting pleural effusion. If they ask you most sensitive, ultrasound can detect as much as 5 to 10 ml of fluid. Most sensitive X-ray, if they ask you, lateral decubitus, ask the person to lie down, it will appear something like this. Look at this image. Just a second. Yes. Look at this image. Can you see this layering of the fluid? So this is the most sensitive investigation as far as X-ray is concerned. Then we have lateral. Then I have a frontal view, and the least sensitive is the supine view. Okay. So everybody on the same page. Rizwana, Pallavi, Tejas, who are just joining in, guys. I hope it is clear. Now we are going to the medicine part of it. Okay. If they ask you that I am seeing ultrasound on any of the modality, all right, any of the modality, I'm seeing ultrasound. What next? How do you determine the cause? So what is the next step that you will do once ultrasound has detected your fluid, or any of the modality has detected fluid? Yes. So to implement the lights criteria, we need to tap it. Very nice. So we do a thoracocentesis. All right, or a thoracic tap, which is going to tell us whether it's a transudative or an exudative effusion, and that is going to be determined by the lights criteria. And what is the lights criteria? Again, very, very important for all of us to know. We take the protein and we take a ratio of the pleural protein to the serum protein. Remember, if it is exudative, we remember for exudate. All right, so remember lights criteria. If any of these are positive, any one is positive, it becomes an exudative effusion. All right, so if the protein is high, it becomes exudative. If the LDH ratio is more than 0.6, remember 0.5, 0.6, or 2/3 of the normal upper limit of serum. Three things. I'm sure you guys already knew this before this class only. So 0.5, 0.6, and 2/3 are things based on which I determine whether it's a transudative effusion or an exudative effusion. Tell me the most common cause of transudative effusion. What is the most common cause of transudative effusion, guys? Very nice. So most common cause of any effusion for that matter is our congestive heart failure. Correct? It's our congestive heart failure. All right. So now let's quickly look at the causes of transudative and exudative. If I ask you the most common cause of exudative effusion, guys, what will it be in our country particularly? What will it be? Yes, it will be infections or tuberculosis. Most important infection will be TB. So most common, यहाँ पे ये most common. All right, so you all know this transudative effusion will occur when either the hydrostatic pressure is raised or your oncotic pressure is raised. Correct? Difference between exudative and transudative we have just seen. Correct? So this is the lights criteria which will differentiate between the two. Pathophysiology wise, if you are asking, transudative effusion is just simple fluid which is occurring, which is coming out of the blood supply because the hydrostatic pressure is very much high. If there is congestive heart failure, there is too much pressure on the blood vessel. So that is why some of the fluid leaks out. Or if there is low oncotic pressure, correct? Your pathophysiology of edema, you remember? So either of the two, because of it occurs transudative. However, if there is a lot of malignancy, or if there is a lot of malignant cells, or if there are a lot of infective cells, what will happen is they tend to go into the pleura by themselves. They directly go inside the pleura, producing an exudative effusion. All right, is it making sense? So this is a direct infiltration. Whereas here in transudative, it's because of your blood supply diffuse hemodynamic changes which are occurring. Okay. So with that background, we go to the causes. So transudative, two most important causes that we have done, CHF. After that, we have cirrhosis. Again, same funda of low oncotic pressure in cirrhosis. Nephrotic syndrome, again same where we have low oncotic pressure. Protein energy malnutrition, again, do you agree? Low oncotic pressure. And then the most important thing, an idiopathic type where you don't know why this transudative effusion is occurring, is called the Meeks syndrome. What is the Meeks syndrome, guys? What is the Meeks syndrome? Yes, we have ascites and we have pleural effusion. Why? Because of a solid ovarian tumor. Very nice. And can you tell me which side pleural effusion? One of you has written, yes, Kishore. Right pleural effusion is typically seen here. All right. So a very, very important cause of right pleural effusion and a solid ovarian mass. Okay. So this is done. These are all the causes of transudative effusion. Clear? Very, very logical. Then we go on to exudative, where I have infection, most common TB, malignancy, again can produce an exudative effusion. Pulmonary embolism, very, very important. PE can produce both, remember, exudative and transudative, but exudative much, much more commoner than transudative. Okay, very important potential question that you need to know. Then you have your connective tissue disorders, RA, SLE. Okay, remember two most important causes of serositis which secondarily produce exudative effusion. Esophageal rupture, pancreatitis also produce your exudative effusion. Now, remember this. Now we are going to apply all of this knowledge into our next question, and then I'm going to tell you a few more salient features. Okay, this was just the trailer. Now the real game begins. All right, and now you guys are going to answer the maximum questions for me. All right. All of the following infusions are associated with low glucose except. All right, amazing. So I see Red Cell, Jon Snow, Shrigiri, Nilakshi, Shobha have answered it correctly so far. So I see 70% have given the correct answer, which is now dropped to 56%. Okay, those of you joining in, guys, attempt this poll. We have almost started. Okay, all right, guys. So remember, low glucose ka. Remember this, amongst our box only, I will just mark it for you. Everything below PE. All of these 4 causes are associated with low glucose. Okay, so remember it like that. Very, very important. RA, even though you must have heard that RA is the one which is the only thing associated with low glucose. It is not so. RA has the minimum amount of glucose, but all of these 4 causes have low glucose. Is it clear, guys? Is this clear? Now, if I ask you, what are the causes of raised amylase? What are the causes of raised amylase? The reason is not yet, it hasn't been described very well, anywhere. It's just because of the higher exudative nature of the effusion that it is there. Okay. Okay? Yes. So remember, high amylase, not just pancreatitis. Both the lower 2, esophageal rupture and pancreatitis, both of them have high amylase. Okay? So in this table only, top 4, low glucose. Bottom 4, low glucose. Bottom 2, high amylase. Is this clear, guys? Are these 2 important one-liner questions done for you? Yes. And both of the causes which have raised amylase, can I say both of them are more on the left side? Esophageal rupture also on the left side. Pancreatitis also on the left side. With this background only, let's fill up this table. So when we have just right-sided unilateral effusion, what are the causes of right-sided effusion? The right will be more commonly predisposed. What is the one thing that we have already seen, guys? Yes, it is Meeks syndrome. What is the other thing? What is the other thing? Yes, it is our hepatic hydrothorax. All right. So what we call as caused by liver causes. So hepatic hydrothorax because of cirrhosis, or also because of what? Because of a liver abscess, secondarily producing reactive effusion. Do you all agree? If there is a liver abscess, large liver abscess, again it can produce an exudative effusion, right-sided pleural effusion. All right, right-sided pleural effusion. These are the causes. So Meeks syndrome and all causes of hepatic hydrothorax. Making sense? Just hepatic hydrothorax means a transudative effusion secondary to cirrhosis. But remember, because of liver abscess also, if there is effusion, will occur on the right side. Is this clear, guys? Are you all with me so far? So right is done. Now tell me causes of predominantly left-sided effusion, 2 of which we have already done. What are those 2? Quickly remember. They are pancreatitis and are what else? Esophageal rupture. Correct. Pancreatitis, esophageal rupture. Tell me one more cause, guys. Can you think of some other structure which is ruptured? Splenic rupture? Fine. Reactively, it can produce, not very famous cause, but, secondarily, it might produce. Fine, I accept that. But what is one other structure in the mediastinum that ruptures? You are all saying chylosositis. Chylosositis can produce effusion on both sides. Okay, right also, left also, depending on where the tear is. Okay, it can produce both sides. Thymic rupture? No, thymus doesn't rupture. Pericarditis? Pericarditis typically will produce pericardial effusion, not much predilection, but yes, more common on the left side. But the cause I'm looking for, yes, is aortic rupture. Okay, aortic dissection or any sort of aortic rupture may be secondary to trauma. This will only produce on the left side. Okay, so very, very important. So remember these 3 causes. All right, even pericarditis I accept, more common on the left side. Okay, is this clear, guys? Very, very important theoretical questions will come from this. All right, okay. Now I will show you images and you will make the diagnosis for me. So this is the ultrasound of the pelvis. Can you tell me what kind of an ultrasound is this? Is it a trans-abdominal ultrasound or is it a trans-vaginal ultrasound? Can you see this and tell me what kind of an ultrasound this looks? Very good, Shrigiri. So this is indeed a TVS. All right, this is indeed TVS. Whenever you see this kind of a shape. All right, on the superficial aspect, it's a transvaginal ultrasound. Amazing that you all know this already. Okay, so this is the TVS, and what I am seeing in the pelvis, what is this? Can I say there is a large solid ovarian mass? Is there a large solid ovarian mass, guys? So there is this, and now there are these two things. Now you tell me what is the diagnosis. This is the pelvis again. This is the pelvis. Yes, so we are talking about the Meeks syndrome. We are talking about the Meeks syndrome where I have a solid ovarian mass. What is the X-ray showing me, guys? What sided effusion? What side was I looking for in Meeks? Left? Is it left, Siddhant? It is right, correct. This is the right side. We always look opposite. Okay, remember this always. Hamesha dekhna, it's a person standing opposite to you. Yes, so this is right effusion. And I'm seeing ascites. I'm seeing blackness. Again, can you all appreciate this black anechoic fluid? Those of you who were there in the beginning. So this is the Meeks syndrome. All right, is this clear? Tell me a few causes of Meeks syndrome. What are the most common solid ovarian tumors which will produce Meeks syndrome? What is the most common pathognomic tumor जिसके साथ ये associated है? Yes, it is the fibroma. All right, so fibroma or its variant like fibrothecoma or just a thecoma. All right, so all of these solid ovarian tumors are the ones for which Meeks was described. Now, what does the Meeks criteria say? Does Meeks say that if you see all these three, it is definitely Meeks? Can we diagnose Meeks before surgery, guys? Can we diagnose Meeks before surgery? Answer is no. Okay, if I resect this solid ovarian tumor and the effusion disappears without treating it, I don't have to treat this effusion. If I treat the solid ovarian mass and the effusion resolves, that is the exact definition of Meeks syndrome. Is it making sense? So remember, the one thing you might not have known, one part of the Meeks syndrome is it has to resolve on its own. Once I resect out the tumor, effusion will disappear. All right, so this is our solid ovarian tumor. Where do we have pseudo-Meeks now? Where do we have pseudo-Meeks? So apart from these tumors, they found that there were various other lesions which were also producing Meeks syndrome. Like your Brenner's tumor that one of you has mentioned, Brenner's tumor, granulosa cell tumor, teratoma, and one more lesion of the uterus, which is leiomyoma. All right, so leiomyoma or your fibroid, all of these lesions can also produce a similar picture. All right, yes, we can do a laparoscopic surgery also or a laparotomy also. So the gynecologist will decide depending on the size. Okay, if it can be resected via just laparoscopy, it can be done so also. Okay. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear? So pseudo-Meeks, everybody's understood. Meeks, everybody's understood. Shall I move forward now? All of you on the same page? Now I am giving you one more differential. So before that, tell me, Siddhant, where is the effusion? Is it right side? Is it left side? Here? Cool. So again, I have a right-sided effusion. Now I am showing you this modality. First, tell me which modality am I showing you? CT, MR. Amazing. So that was most because you're diagnosing liver abscess, your right, left, but most likely a typing error. Got it. So this is a CECT. This is a CECT where we are detecting a liver abscess. Very nice, all of you. So what I am seeing is that there is a thick wall which is enhancing, and inside there is this liquid. Correct? You all recognize the gray of the fluid. So there is this liquid inside, necrotic inside, which is suggestive of an abscess. When I do an ultrasound for this patient, can you all appreciate this complete blackness? And inside it, there is this debris. It is not a cyst. Correct? There is a lot of pus which is floating in. So although there will be posterior acoustic enhancement, but still it will not be completely black. Can you appreciate the difference between this and anechoic? It is not anechoic. So this is how an abscess appears. Okay, so this complete diagnosis, a liver abscess secondarily producing right-sided pleural effusion. Correct? All of you agree with me? So our two causes of right effusion are done. One was the Meeks syndrome. The second one was a hepatic causes. All right, yes, black is the abscess. Okay, this kala thing that you are seeing, this is the abscess. Jiske andar you are seeing this white things floating, this is the abscess. Okay, done. All right, now let's go to left side. So one of the causes of left sided was esophageal perforation. Now let's do this MCQ first. Great. So I see Pankaj and Jeel have only given the correct answer so far. So has Kishore and Midhu and Sonali. And Ashmita, John, okay, a lot of you have given now. Okay, cool. So 45% have given the correct answer, guys. Well done. Okay, so let's look at the options. Macular's triad consists of vomiting, chest pain, and subcutaneous emphysema. Is this a true statement? Is this a true statement? Yes, definitely. So Macular's triad, a triad used for esophageal perforation, is definitely this, where you have vomiting, retching, chest pain, and subcutaneous emphysema. What is the physical examination sign for subcutaneous emphysema? What is the physical examination sign that we see? What crunch? Kiska crunch? In the interscapular area, what kind of a crunch do we see? We see the Hammond's crunch, correct? We see the Hammond's crunch. All right, so a physical examination sign of subcutaneous emphysema. All right, yes. If I ask you what is the X-ray sign of subcutaneous emphysema, कौन सा leaf याद करेंगे? Holy leaf sign? Was it holy leaf sign or was it some other leaf sign? Yes, it is the ginkgo leaf sign. All right, so we don't have to confuse the two leaves. Ginkgo leaf sign is the sign seen with subcutaneous emphysema. Okay. Then Necklerio V sign may be seen on X-ray. A lot of you opted for this option. What is Necklerio V sign a sign of, guys? What is it a sign of? Is it associated with pneumomediastinum? Do you all agree? It is a sign of pneumomediastinum, along with your continuous diaphragm sign, angel wing sign, ring around the artery. ये सब कल ही देखा है, correct? So this is also a sign which will be associated with esophageal perf. Esophagus is a part of the posterior mediastinum. Do you agree? So whenever there is esophageal perforation, the air that we are swallowing will come out, correct? So there will be pneumomediastinum in esophageal perf. Agreed? All of you are understanding. A lot of you marked this, so I hope it is now clear that it can be seen. Most common cause is iatrogenic. Is this true, guys? Is this a true statement? Definitely yes. What procedure is it associated with mostly? Associated with endoscopy, correct? So our endoscopy is the most common cause of esophageal perforation. And CCT with oral contrast should not be performed. Can we not perform with iodinated contrast? We can definitely do. Barium should not be given, correct? But iodinated oral contrast can be given. Okay, so contrast study, be it a fluoroscopic study or a CCT, iodinated contrast can be given in perforation. All right, option A was nothing but a theoretical fact, which was the Macular's triad, all right, which was the Macular's triad. So whenever there is esophageal perforation, the patient will have vomiting. There is something which is perforated, so patient will have chest pain. And because of this pneumomediastinum, all right, there is air which is leaking out in the mediastinum. Along the mediastinum, it will go into the chest wall also, resulting in subcutaneous emphysema. Is that clear, Srigiri? Have you understood? So this is the typical triad, all right? It's a factual question. Macular's triad, it's a question in itself, which I have put as a statement, all right? Yes, same as Borehouse, all right? So this is the same as Borehouse, except we don't use the word Borehouse when we are talking about iatrogenic. Okay, so Borehouse, typically when it occurs on its own, we call that term. Otherwise, they mean the same thing. All right, is that clear? Okay, so what am I showing you here now? And again, an image-based question. Right diffusion, left diffusion. Right diffusion, left diffusion. Yes, so very nice. All of you are saying left diffusion. And what is this study that I am doing? Can I say this is a contrast swallow? This is a contrast swallow that I have done. A lot of you saying aortic aneurysm. Shivashankar, no. This is nothing but like a barium swallow only, except that instead of barium, we've asked the patient to swallow iodinated contrast. So this is the esophagus. Can you all see it's leaking out like this? Can you all see that there is this leak in the mediastinum? So this is how our contrast studies become the investigation of choice to diagnose esophageal perforation. Is it making sense? So this is the leak that we will see in the contrast studies. Okay, so investigation of choice, if they ask you for esophageal perforation, it will be actually a CCT with oral contrast, because it will tell us the complete extent. It's a 3D modality, correct? I can do a barium swallow, basically not a barium swallow, but a contrast study also, a contrast swallow also. But CCT, being a 3D modality, will tell me the exact site, exact where it is spreading. So this becomes much, much better. Are you understanding? So 2 investigations. But the most important learning point for all of you is we can't give barium swallow. Barium is contraindicated. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear? Esophageal perforation. If I were to tap this, what would be the glucose level? What would be the amylase level? Tell me. Glucose level क्या होगा? सबसे पहले बताओ. High or low? Very nice. Glucose level will be low. All right. Remember, not high. Glucose will be low. Whereas amylase will be high. Correct? Amylase will be high. Is this clear to everybody, guys? ठीक है. All right. Now tell me right effusion, left effusion. Right effusion, left effusion. Left effusion again. So 3 causes of left effusion. Can we do X-ray? Yes, yes, we can do. So basically this is that only. Now we have done an X-ray after asking the patient to drink the contrast. So instead of doing just one X-ray, we do a fluoroscopy. We do a video. Okay, so fluoroscopy is nothing but X-ray. So that is what we've done here. Understood? We can't just do one X-ray because then we don't know where the contrast has reached. So we typically do a fluoroscopic study. Okay? Okay, so all of you have diagnosed this perfectly. What am I seeing this? NCCT, CCT? Mohit, NC or CE? Cool. So CCT, correct? I'm seeing the kidneys are white. I'm seeing the vessels are white. What is this anatomical structure that I'm marking? What is this anatomical structure? Pancreas? नहीं, pancreas के पीछे जो white tubular structure है. What is this white structure that I'm marking? This white tubular, which vein or which artery? A lot of you are saying splenic. Okay, so Shiva Shankar says splenic artery, Chil says splenic, but artery or vein, that is important. I want to know splenic artery or splenic vein. Okay, Pradeep says portal. No, so वो तो गलत ही है because portal vein will be formed somewhere around here, correct, at the confluence, and this is my main portal vein. So this is the splenic vein, guys. Remember, इतना बड़ा vein vein ही होगा, alright? It can't be an artery. Artery will be very, very small. Okay, so this is the splenic vein which runs posteriorly behind the pancreas. But where is the pancreas? What has happened to the pancreas, guys? Can I say it is completely replaced by necrosis? Can I say it is completely necrosed? There is acute necrotizing pancreatitis. Can I make that diagnosis? Quickly tell me, revised Atlanta classification, what are the 2 types of pancreatitis? What are the 2 types of pancreatitis? One, I have already told you, acute necrotizing pancreatitis. Yes, the other one is the acute interstitial edematous pancreatitis. Do you agree? Acute interstitial edematous pancreatitis, which has a poorer prognosis, ANP or AIEP, which has a poorer prognosis. So as the name suggests, necrosis ho gaya, pancreatic parenchyma is dead. So this has a poorer prognosis. Very, very quickly, let's revise the collections also. Less than 4 weeks. What do I call this collection here? What do we call this? We call it the acute peripancreatic fluid collection. We call it acute peripancreatic fluid collection. What do I call a collection less than 4 weeks in ANP, guys? Isko kya bolenge, Ashmita? Do we call it pseudocyst? No, we call it acute necrotic collection. We call it acute necrotic collection. All right, so basically there are these 2 types of pancreatitis. Depending on the period, all right, we can diagnose the name of the collection. If it is less than 4 weeks, the wall has not formed. A wall has not formed. If it is homogeneous, it is APFC, acute peripancreatic fluid collection. If a wall is not formed, it is heterogeneous. It is acute necrotic collection. All right. Now, if 4 weeks have passed, a wall has formed. Now, what your answer was, Shashank, is true. Now we call it a pseudocyst. Now I call this a pseudocyst here, and I call it a walled of necrosis here. I call it a walled of necrosis here. All right. Is this all making sense to you guys? I have done this before. That's why I'm going quicker. Is this familiar? Types of pancreatitis. This is the revised Atlanta classification. Okay, so this is my necrotic pancreatitis. Again, tell me what will be the glucose level in this effusion? What will be the glucose level here? Low. Very good. What will be the amylase level here? What will be the amylase level here? High. Amazing. So left-sided effusion, 2 causes done: pancreatitis, esophageal perforation. What is the 3rd cause which is pending? What is the 3rd cause which is pending, guys? The 3rd cause, which will more commonly on the left side, yes, it is our aortic rupture. And most common aortic rupture will occur because of trauma. All right, will occur secondary to trauma. Before that, let's now do differentials of hemorrhagic effusion. Effusions where I can see RBCs, where I can see blood. Great. So completely mixed answers apart from B, mixed board completely. So Shivani, Pradeep, Kishore, Shobha and Sonali have given the quickest correct answers here. All right, guys. Let's quickly see the differentials for hemorrhagic effusion. So you see how many questions from effusions can be asked. Low amylase, high amylase, low glucose, hemorrhagic, transudative, exudative. So they can ask you all sorts of variety of questions, all right? So we need to know everything. So hemorrhagic effusion, asbestosis, definitely. This I have taught you, all right, just a few days back. Asbestosis associated with hemorrhagic effusion. Trauma, very, very obvious, associated with hemothorax will be hemorrhagic effusion. In fact, again, remember, it can produce hemorrhagic effusion. Pulmonary infarct can also produce what? It can also produce hemoptysis, correct? Because the cells are completely dead. So it can produce hemoptysis also. It can produce hemorrhagic effusion also. RA, on the other hand, does not produce hemorrhagic effusion. Why will it produce hemorrhage? Correct? It's producing an exudative type of effusion, all right, which will have low glucose. All right, it does not produce hemorrhagic effusion. How asbestosis has one of the features. It is one of the typical features where asbestosis produces hemorrhagic effusion. All right, it's one of the properties that it has. All right. What is the most common pleural manifestation of asbestosis, guys? What is the most common manifestation of asbestosis, if I ask you? Yes, so it will be pleural plaques. So even though effusion is not very common, but if it is there, it will be hemorrhagic. Okay, understanding? All right, and what is the sign? Now tell me the leaf wala sign here. Yes, so again, we have both the leaves today. So we will see the holy leaf sign here. Okay, cool. All right, now we go on to the third cause, which is our aortic rupture. So now I want you all to tell me the X-ray features of this. Okay. X-ray features of aortic rupture, all except. Very nice. So Shrigiri, Jeel, okay, Vikas has also joined in apparently now. Jon Snow, Sonali have given the correct answer. So Sonali is giving all correct answers. Very nice. Okay, guys. So all of the following are features of aortic rupture. So before I tell you this, I will show you on the X-ray and then we will learn. Okay. All right. So see this X-ray, ignore this MCQ and see this X-ray first and then we'll do this MCQ. Okay. So what am I seeing? Can you all appreciate this mediastinal widening, guys? Can you all appreciate this mediastinal widening? So let's write down the features of aortic rupture right here. Okay. So one, which is not mentioned, mediastinal widening. Who will tell me the diameter? How much diameter ke upar will I call the mediastinum to be widened? How much should this be more than to call it mediastinal widening? Anyone? 50 centimeters? 50 ml? ml, so I can't measure. I can measure in centimeters, no? What centimeters should it be? So remember, it should be more than 30. No, yes, it should be more than 8 centimeters. More than 8 centimeters or more than 1/3 the thoracic diameter. If I take this entire chest ka maximum diameter, either it should be more than 1/3 or if I have to take an absolute measurement, more than 8 centimeters. So first feature, all of you understood. Don't focus on the question, guys. Focus on the X-ray. Okay, so more than 8 centimeter mediastinal widening. First feature, all of you remember. Second feature, what will be the second feature? What is it? Can you see? If I tell you that a supine X-ray has been taken, can I say that there is a lot of hemothorax? There is this complete widening. Do you all agree? Remember from our very beginning, supine X-ray effusion, complete layering. So can I say that there is left-sided effusion here? Left-sided effusion. Do you all agree? Are you all understanding? So the second feature I'm seeing here is left-sided effusion. The third feature that we can see is something which is called apical cap. Same thing. Basically, when the effusion gets collected in the apex, lung apex, leading to thickening of the apex, that has been called the apical cap. That has been called the apical cap. So 3 features done. Are you all understanding? 3 features: mediastinal widening, left-sided effusion, apical cap. Okay. Now, what happens? First, tell me what is the most common site where aortic rupture happens. If I'm talking about trauma, which is the most common cause, tell me the most common site of aortic rupture. Where is it commonly seen? All right, let me just draw the aortic arch and I will mark it for you and you will tell me what is the most common site. Is it here, A? Is it here, B? Is it here, C? Or is it here, D? A, B, C, D. Okay, a lot of you are saying A. Okay, a lot of you. So only Shivani is correct. Remember, it will be this position, and Mohit and Ashmita now. Okay, so this position, guys, where we have what? Remember the ligamentum arteriosum. Remember ductus arteriosus, ligamentum arteriosum. It lies somewhere around here after the left subclavian artery exits. Okay, and this site is called the isthmus, the aortic isthmus. All right, and this is the site where most commonly aortic rupture happens. This is where aorta will tear and blood will come gushing out. All right, why is this the common site? Because our pericardium, guys, our fibrous pericardium will extend up to this point. Can you all remember your anatomy? The fibrous pericardium encloses the arch up to this point, and after this there is no pericardium. So can I say there is the junction? This is the immobile part and this is the mobile aorta. So anywhere I have a junction of the immobile part and the mobile part, that is where the injuries will happen. Is the concept understood, guys? So that is why most common site, important one-liner is isthmus is the most common site. All right, only trauma is caused? Yes, a lot of other causes like your syphilis where you have your aorta getting affected, or your connective tissue disorder, but typically they will have aortic dissection. All right, whenever there is aortic dissection and then the aortic rupture happens, even then this happens to be the most common site. All right, is that clear? So remember this one-liner and remember the reason why. Now, having said that this is the site basically. Now, can I, if I am drawing here, can I say that somewhere around here the aorta is leaking? All right, are you all understanding on the X-ray? So what did we have here? What was our left heart border? Let's revise. From up to down, what was the left heart border being formed of? What was the first knuckle that I was seeing? Come on, quickly tell me this, you all know. Yes, सबसे ऊपर, not pulmonary, सबसे ऊपर क्या था? Aortic knuckle, correct? Yes, we had the aortic knuckle and then we had pulmonary aorta, agreed? Then we had pulmonary aorta, then what was the chotu part? What was the chota sa part? Yes, left auricle or left atrial appendage, and then the majority left atrium or left ventricle. The majority is formed by the left ventricle. ठीक है, so इतना sorted है. So basically what happens is when the aorta is bleeding, if this is bleeding, can I say that the AP window, the window which was forming, the AP window will get obliterated? Will you all agree if I say if this is bleeding, the AP window will get obliterated? Agreed? ठीक है. So there goes another feature. Can you see that there is no window? I am not even seeing the aortic knuckle. AP window obliteration means normally in a normal X-ray we have the aortic knuckle, I have the pulmonary knob. In between I have the AP window. Agreed, Shiva Shankar? When aorta is bleeding, when there is bleeding in the mediastinum, there will be this blood here. The density of outside blood and density of inside blood is the same. So what I will see is a complete opacity here. Like you see here. Can you see there is complete whiteness? I can't see aorta, I can't see pulmonary, I can't see pulmonary window. All right, so that is what I mean. Okay, now let's go to what it will do to the rest of the mediastinum. Now, if the aorta is bleeding here, can I say that the rest of the mediastinum will be shifted to the contralateral side, which is the right side? Do you agree that there is right tracheal shift? Can you see here? The aorta is bleeding here, will push the mediastinum to the opposite side. Agreed? So there is right-sided tracheal shift. Now, what will happen when there is an aorta which is bleeding and pushing the left main stem bronchus down? Do you understand? Trachea shifted to the opposite side. Left main stem bronchus pushed down. So when such kind of an arrangement happens, the right main stem bronchus is pushed up. Okay, it is pushed up. It's confusing, but I hope you are understanding. When trachea is shifted like this and this is shifted like this, because of that traction, the right main stem bronchus is pushed up. Okay, is this clear? And what about the esophagus? Can I also say that the esophagus will also be pushed to the opposite side? Esophagus will also be pushed to the right side? ठीक है. So now let's look at the options. Displacement of the NG tube, indirectly saying esophagus displaced to the right. True statement. Apical cap, again true statement. Depressed right main stem bronchus, is it depressed or is it elevated, guys? What is happening to this main stem bronchus? It is indeed elevated. So C will be the wrong option, whereas LMB we just saw it is depressed. Okay, are all of you understanding? So now let's quickly consolidate this. Features, again this is a very important question, guys. Chest X-ray features of aortic rupture. Chest X-ray features of aortic rupture. All right. So apical cap is anything where your pleura becomes thickened. All right. Your pleura becomes thickened. Like you have your CP angle getting blunted. Same thing if the blood collects in the lung apices, if it gets collected there, that is will present as a thickened apical cap. All right. A most important differential will be Pancoast tumor. All right. A small tumor in the apex will also produce this opacity, and your this thing. Pleural effusion, which is collected there, will also produce this apical cap. Okay, is this clear, Shivani? Yes, and definitely all of you correct. Pancoast MRI investigation of choice. Okay, amazing. So now let's quickly write chest X-ray features of aortic rupture, and you guys will now tell me first feature, mediastinum widening more than what? Yes, now you are all correct. More than 8 centimeter or more than 1/3. Correct, more than 1/3 of the thoracic diameter. Okay, what happens to the AP window? What happens to the AP window? It is blunted. Correct, AP window is now blunted, obliterated. It is not seen. All right, amazing. What about the trachea? What about the trachea? Where will the trachea go? Trachea will go towards the right side, or it will be pushed to the contralateral side or the right side in this case. What about the right mainstem bronchus? Right mainstem bronchus elevated or depressed? Yes, very good. Right mainstem bronchus will be elevated. This is in fact the most confusing area where I used to get confused a lot. So it's very nice you all have understood. Left mainstem bronchus will be what? Left mainstem bronchus will be depressed. Us pe to seedha pressure aa raha hai. So this will be depressed. All right. Will there be right pleural effusion, left pleural effusion? More commonly, there will be left pleural effusion. And can I also say there will be, because there is effusion, there will be the apical cap. There will be the apical cap. Have all of you understood all of these features? Will you remember this, guys? Good. So you don't even have to remember, just remember kya hota hai. Understand basically. You will have an all except type of question most likely which will come. Okay. Now, having said this, now you know what the X-ray is showing. Tell me the next step. Answer the question. Left is depressed. Yes. See. All right, let me just get my pen. So see this. I just mark out the trachea. Okay, this is the trachea. Now, can you see this bronchus, Shrigiri? Can you appreciate that this is the bronchus which is depressed? And now, if I draw out the right mainstem bronchus, it is actually more elevated. All right, now see for yourself. Let me erase. See this trachea. ये नीचे जा रहा है and ये ऊपर जा रहा है. Can you appreciate this? So that is how it appears. ठीक है. Now I'll start the poll. Now, when we are suspecting the aortic rupture, what will we do next? Okay, so I see a lot of confusion. Only Shrigiri, Pankaj, Shashank, Prateep, Vikas have given the correct answers. And so has Diti Dikshit. All right, okay, guys. So remember, what is the most important clue that I have given? History of MVA means motor vehicle accident. Hypotensive hai patient, but he's a responder. All right, when we start the IV fluids, when we do ABC for everybody and the patient responds, we call him responder. And now the patient is stable. Okay, he's a responder. So we have time to do further investigation and know the exact site and the type of aortic injury such that we can plan the management. Okay, whether there is surgical management needed, whether a stent needs to be put. All right, so whenever you have a stable patient, remember, we would always want to do a CT angio. You would always want to do CT angio, which becomes investigation of choice for aortic injury. All right, so remember this, only for stable. ICD, why do I want to put ICD? If I put just ICD and drain out the blood, what will happen is basically blood will keep leaking out. So right now I want to go for definitive management, correct? Instead of just taking out this blood, which is anyways going to be keep leaking, I want to quickly know where is the injury and quickly manage it, correct? Why not DSA? Because once I know the extent, all right, once I know the extent, if there is a Stanford B type of a lesion, I can do DSA. If there's Stanford A type of lesion, then I have to go for surgery, correct? So that is why first I want to know whether it's what kind of an injury it is. In fact, if I had given you here that the patient is unstable, then straight away we take for surgery. All right, then we don't go for CT angio. Is it making sense, guys? Is this making sense to you all? Okay. Why not E fast? where EFAST तो option में ही नहीं है. EFAST तो we have done already, alright? So EFAST is a part of the primary survey. Okay, let me quickly tell you. So you have primary survey, you have secondary survey. तो primary survey में तो ABCD के साथ में ही you are doing EFAST, alright? So remember EFAST is a part of the primary survey. तो वो तो हो गया. But now we have to decide your fixed management. Okay, so for that CT angio becomes investigation of choice. Yes, transesophageal echo will also come into play when the patient is unstable. Very nice question. So when the patient is unstable, we have no time for CT. We can just do one echo and then take for surgery. All right. MR angio, again, anytime we have emergency, MR angio to सवाल ही नहीं होता. MR angio will take 1 hour 45 minutes. We don't have so much time. Okay, so any emergency, MR angio out of the picture. ठीक है, understood this approach to aortic rupture. So although this class was pleural effusion, I mean we are dwelling into a lot of other areas so that a lot gets covered at the same time. Okay, so a lot of important topics I'm trying to touch upon, although the class was in pleural effusion. ठीक है, all right. Now let's go back to pleural effusion. And all of the following are indications of draining. When do I want to put a pigtail or when I want to put a drain inside, not just tap it once. When do I want to put a tube in is the question, okay? All right, so only Jon Snow has given the correct answer so far. Nobody else has given the correct answer. All right, guys, no issues. So now we learn. Okay, so now Midhu has also given the correct answer. ठीक है. So now we learn. All right, now we learn. Yes, I see that you have all gotten trapped here. Yes, of course, I have made these questions. No. So indications of drainage of pleural fluid are all except. Now, can you tell me what pH, guys? What pH becomes the indication of drainage of fluid? It is pH less than what? Less than 7.2. All right, so remember pH less than 7.2 becomes an indication and not 7.4. Apart from that, all are indications. When you have a loculated effusion, whenever there's a loculated effusion, it will not be treated on its own. So we need to put a tube. When there is gross pus, we need to put a tube. When there is split pleural sign, what do I mean? Empyema. So basically all of these options are pointing towards the same thing, that when there is a secondary infection of the pleural effusion, it's a purulent effusion, which is nothing but your empyema. All right, so pleural effusion in infections, remember, can just be reactive, which is called a parapneumonic effusion. Correct? It can be just that. And if I give antibiotics, it will resolve with the consolidation. But empyema will not just resolve with antibiotics. If the pH is very, very low, if there is obvious pus, if it is loculated, then it has to be drained. All right, is this making sense? Very, very important question. Okay, okay. So remember 7.2, not 7.4. Okay. So this is what it will look like. So when I say loculated septated effusion, this is what it looks like. See, remember our initial figure, black normal ultrasound. Now, can you all see the septate coursing in the effusion? This is a complicated effusion. This has to be drained. We cannot just leave this alone. All right, so this is what empyema looks like. What is the sign I'm showing you here, guys? What is the sign? Very nice, Shobha. So this is indeed the split pleura sign. NCCT or CCT, what is the investigation that I'm showing you now? What is the investigation? Yes, it is indeed a contrast enhanced CT. Can you all see this enhancing pleura? So this is the split pleura sign. Okay, normally in an uncomplicated effusion, the pleura will never show enhancement. Okay, it will never show enhancement. Just the fact that it's showing enhancement, this is the diagnosis. Both of these represent empyema. All right, making sense? This needs to be drained out. All right, understanding, guys, all of you. अभी तक जितना भी किया सब समझ में आ रहा है. We have touched upon a variety of things. I hope it was all clear. ठीक है. Let's do this question. One last question. Staging of malignant pleural effusion. ठीक है. A direct factual question. Okay. For this you need to know the staging. If you don't know, no issue. We will learn now. Great. So Pankaj, Nilakshi, Shrigiri, Kishore have given the correct answers. So has Vikas. Okay, guys. Okay, so this is a factual question. No issue if you don't know. So I'm asking you about the staging of CA lung. Okay, I'm asking about the staging of CA lung. Can you all appreciate this, guys? This is a central mass. All right, tomorrow we have a class on CA lung where I'll be talking about this in great detail. I'll teach you the entire staging. I'll tell you how tumors look like. But for now, just believe me that this is a hilar mass. And what is this, guys? On CT, what am I seeing this? What is this? This is the effusion. All right, so this is the effusion. So remember the staging of malignant pleural effusion. Pehle, in the previous staging, in the 7th AJCC, it was T4, but now it is a part of M1A. So this, for your reference, is the staging. This I will tell you in detail tomorrow. All right, but for now, remember, distant metastasis mein, you have M1A, M1B, M1C, where M1A, your pericardial nodules, malignant pleural effusion, and any contralateral deposit becomes M1A. All right, so right now, just remember this one fact for me. This I will test tomorrow, whether you remember or not, and I will teach you the entire CA lung ka staging. Okay, is that clear? Now I have a lot of other questions for you for trauma, but the time is over and my throat is also hurting a bit. So all of the other questions I will take up in the quiz. All right, all of these trauma questions, they are very, very important. I have this wonderful table that will help you solve a lot of questions. So I will take up these in the Sunday quiz. But before that, I'll just tell you this. Okay, now tell me, what is the diagnosis here? What is the diagnosis here? Can I see the meniscus sign, guys? Can I see meniscus sign here? What was meniscus sign? Ki medial se zyada lateral hona chahiye. Correct? Very nice, Shobha. Amazing. So this is loculated effusion. Here, our meniscus sign is absent. Correct? Our meniscus sign is absent. There is some fluid which is just collected. Some of it is collected like this. Some of it is collected like this. So this is how loculated effusion will appear. Okay, yes, in the non-dependent part. Very nice. So this is loculated effusion. Just an image-based question for you. So when you don't see the meniscus sign, remember, it is not free effusion. It is loculated. Okay, and where else can it get loculated? It can get loculated in what? It can get loculated in the fissure. Correct? It can get loculated in the fissure. Which fissure is this? Horizontal fissure, oblique fissure. So very easy. So it's getting collected in the horizontal fissure, producing this oblong opacity. This has also been referred to as pseudotumor, correct? Because it looks like a pulmonary opacity. So this has been referred to as a pseudotumor. All right. How will the oblique fissure pass, guys? It will start from which vertebral level and go anteriorly? It will start from the D4, D5 level. Okay, so remember, this is the location of the oblique fissure. All right, okay. So shall we stop here? I have taken 2 hours of your time today. So the rest of the things I promise I will cover. It's very, very important. So I want to do some bit of trauma with you. So we will do this. Leaderboard to chala gaya with the last poll. Okay, now you can't see the leaderboard. You can see it after the class probably. I don't know. I don't think you can see after the class. In plus course you can see, but now you can't see. But it doesn't matter, guys. Leaderboard ka kya karna hai? All right, these are just learning classes. All right, it doesn't matter where you stand on the leaderboard as long as you are learning. Yahan ka main aim hai not to be top on leaderboard. Main aim is to learn every single thing that all of us are teaching you. Okay, so thank you so much. I also enjoyed a lot. And tomorrow we will meet for 3 classes. Tomorrow we have 3 classes which are all on tumors. So lung tumors, liver tumors, and renal tumors. ठीक है, 3 tumors करेंगे कल. Everything about them: radiology, medicine, surgery, patho, everything. Okay, so good night and bye bye, and enjoy your Friday night.